Alright. Welcome back to Lenz Comic Corner, Classic Us Known Classics. This is episode number 3181, Doubleshot 3075. I have two value trades. First from Dan Abbott, the other one from Rob Venditti. For Dan, we have a book called Fallen World. Those of you curious, who is this guy on the cover? That apparently is Rai, the man from the 41st century. Yep. Set a year after the previous volume of the book, this leads into the very next Rai book, which I have read the first trade for. Simply put, this is basically following what Rai was doing 1 year after the previous series, now set in the year 4002, given the fact the previous book was in 4001. Heck, there's even a mini crossover event called 4001. We start with a prologue, which they don't credit here for some reason. Yeah, this book contained just the first 5 issues, but they also included a free comic day issue in here, which came out in 2019. Now, is New Japan in here? Yes. Is Father in here? The one who created Rai? Yeah, he's here too. So most of this is basically like after New Japan fell to Earth. By the way, Clay to Create is not the artist of this book. Nope. These are your primary artists. You have Adam Paloa and Juan Jose Ripe. The back gallery here, the artists are Dan Abbott, Raul Allen, Dale Brown, Ulysses Elra, Bernardo Denio, Stevie Fox, Gabe Levy, Ben Harvey, AJ Wammer, Frick Renardi, Dave Mack, Adam Paloa, Jimbo Sagoto, and Casper Winjaro. This front cover here, the one for the trade, that's Jay Lee and... Oh, actually, it's the cover. That's Doug Burhow and Dingo Ringo. The front artwork, that's basically... that's Jay Lee there. Good cover. I like the artwork here. So, mostly put basically with the Europe. And we jump at the present series where Father is basically dealing with, well, calling his son traitor. Basically, Rai is just falling about. He's basically just on a journey throughout the, basically in the wasteland of the future. No appearance by basically the characters from the previous book. Nope, and then he encounters a kid who he ends up traveling, and this basically just leads into the next volume for Rai, which is also by Dan Abbott. It's a pretty interesting book for what it is. Give the book roughly 8 out of 10. Next up we have is Manowar, Volume 11 by Rob Venditti. This book collects Manowar, Volume 3, issues 43 to 46, Manowar, Commander Thrill number 0, Manowar Volume 20th Anniversary Special. Yeah, only a few issues here called Kill List. Yep. So they start with a 20th Anniversary Special for Manowar. This is basically everything Kafu. Surprised Jim Shooting a chance with this one. Commander Thrill's one shot is done by Rob Venditti. Of course, Rob Venditti writes all the books here. The artwork, Kafu does the X Generations book Destiny. Francis Perdita. Robert Gill does 43, 44, 45, and 46. So, in the case of the 20th Anniversary Special, this is pretty much basically, kind of in a way, this is Venditti giving a backstory where the armor came from. And it feels like basically like they're telling a similar thing would suit me with this one. Basically, this is just the previous host to the armor. And that's kind of what the story is here. It's kind of like the history of the armor before it gets to Ark himself. And we basically recap there. The Commander Thrill one-shot is a villain from the series that they decided to have this book just explore his backstory. He was the immediate predecessor to the armor, and this is basically his life prior to... With him and the armor, basically prior we see him in the main book. And they would lead into the four-parter Kill List, which also guest stars Ninjak, Of course, mentioned the events in the previous volume, but Commander Throw is back, and Ninjak basically is dealing with Divine. So, basically, it's like we use a doctor here who basically gets his arm blown out thanks to explosions. Because the person kills him, basically thinks that he's a traitor to the planet. And then we see Exo and Ninjak basically interacting. Great Venditti basically brought him back again. And here's a weird thing when it comes to Venditti and Ninjak. Did you know he's never wrote a Ninjak book? Despite the fact he was the one to introduce the rebooted version of the character, he never wrote any of the ongoing books. Nope, with most like Matt Knott, Jeff Parker, and Christmas Gage. And that was it. He never wrote any of these books. Nope, not really. So, we have Ark putting up a fence, basically this farm basically that they have in the U.S. And then we have the Armorites who actually had the recent miniseries recently. They're actually allies of Ark. You have kids playing around with the vine. And of course, kids on the Love Boat. Yes, that's what they call the headquarters of Gate, the agency he works with. And by the way, he refers to as Lady Capuchon, that's why she's a colonel. And in the book, she never tells him don't call her a lady. Just that, I think because basically of what he was raised, that's probably the reason we call it that. So basically, they're investigating the whole bomb stuff here. There's still more of the thread of the Vine, mostly rogue elements of the Vine, and it's basically Commander Thrill trying to have people of Earth turn against Exo. Ninja gets involved, and I do appreciate though that the armor is at this point kind of looking like the original armor that was designed by the artist who worked on Jim Shooter's run for the book back in the 90s. I do appreciate that. I did mention this too. He of course not read this stuff, but I did tell him that I know that the original when the armor came off basically came like a shoulder mounted helmet. Here it becomes ball. He apparently didn't know that. He also didn't know that the most recent comic published Goku characters was Dynamite. He had no idea about that. He did remember basically writing some of the Goku characters for Dark Horse. He remembers that. But he did not know about the Goku owned by Dynamite, despite the fact not doing anything with the Goku characters. Nope, and I don't know why, it's weird. Great characters, though. And of course, the Armors basically think of their own thing. And of course, Exo has to deal with basically Thrill being back. Yeah, he's not been seen since the start of the series. And now he's back. And of course, basically, he has to take out basically someone who the Vine infiltrated. And Vine's like all about mind control here and trying to get people to turn against him. And of course, basically, he does take him down. And of course, basically, Commander Thrill, basically, people work with him are not happy with stuff he's doing because he's so vengeful. And it turns out that the priest basically, these guys betrayed them and, well, they're arrested. It's like, yep. And of course, leading to the last issue here, which has basically that you have the Settlers take on the Vine, which start with their allies, and of course, the Armorites just, well, they have to basically deal with other stuff here. Arn tries to, and of course, Thrill basically gets involved. They fight him here. And of course, the Armorites are fighting the Vine, and it's like, yes. And then the book ends with a version of the Omax showing up, where, and the next book is called Longer of the King. We have technically 2 more books left to go for this run, and that's it. And once I finish reviewing these 2 books, I would have reviewed the longest book published under this era for Valiant, because Valiant has had this weird thing with the publication schedule when it comes to their books, where in the past 13 years since basically the company came back, with the exception of this book and maybe first one, Bloodshot, and Ninjak, a lot of the books last maybe a year at best. It's like the beginning they were lasting maybe a couple years, but then afterwards they stopped doing that for some weird reason. It's like 12 issues, done. Or some of them last 12 issues at all, which is weird. Like, for example, some books basically are on hiatus for a while until Valiant came back thanks to forming a partnership with Alien Books. Also, in the past year, I've tried to get my hands on more Manowar trades. The problem has been getting these trades is, for some weird reason before Down went bankrupt, it's like Marvel Comics will order these books and then somehow they become unavailable for some weird reason. And not even they know their issue for it. Now, other people might blame them for basically what happened to their books. Me, I'm not going to blame it because it's not their fault these books become mysteriously unavailable. It's frickin' Diamond. They're the issue. Yeah, and they're the ones distributing Valiant. Yes, they were in fact distributing Valiant prior to the bankruptcy. Yes. But how in the world books distributed now, like, there's some go to the Penguin, because I know that Marvel went to the Penguin. And before the bankruptcy, first it was DC left them in year 2020, and then Marvel left them, though they're also working with Diamond, where certain select titles was published via Diamond, and everything else published distributed via Penguin. Penguin apparently is bigger distributor than Diamond is. Diamond, I was talking to people, even these people in the comics are a little surprised about this. The fact that the people who ran Diamond apparently just thought they had a monopoly, despite the fact they hadn't had a monopoly in 5 freaking years. They were losing people, they were losing publishers because they were run by complete idiots. Oh, and by the way, guess who's the first person who pointed this out, the fact that Diamond is run by complete idiots? Believe it or not, it was Jim Lee. Yes, I have heard basically that Jim Lee did say that about people who run Diamond, is that they're complete idiots. They have no idea what they were doing prior to the bankruptcy. And also, I was hearing stuff from comic shops about Diamond, about stuff they place an order in, and then for some weird reason, I don't know why they did this. My little comic store don't know why they did this at all. They would mysteriously split the order in half that they just put in, instead of, come in like a week later after they order it. Nope, what they did is they split the order in half. Who does that? Midtown Clue didn't do that at all. Nope. They don't do that. Of course, for some weird reason, I was hearing some shops, one shop I went to, had to get their DC comics from directly because DC left Diamond, instead of going to Lunar. They, for some reason, ordered this stuff via Midtown Comics for some weird reason. Like, you do know there's another distributor besides Diamond. It's called Lunar. And one person pointed out, though, about this. Apparently DC leaving Diamond for Lunar saved the comic distribution business. Yes, and indirectly saved the comic industry. Because someone put this out, though, they would have basically gone bankrupt, because I know I basically covered Diamond, so this stuff here, but EXO is amazing. By the way, I give this book here a 9 out of 10. Still a good book overall. Got Got 2 books left to go for that run, like I said, and that's it. Can you believe this book was collected in 13 volumes, and it is to date the only trade paperback series published by Valiant to have that much. Because I was looking up, apparently some of these ones had much like 6 or 7 volumes. Now you're lucky if you get 1 or 2 at most. It's not the case with Marvel Comics now. It went with Marvel, but so that stupid idiot Marvel said that. I think it's because Valiant's losing money, per se, and some of these series don't last as long as they should be. Maybe they're running out of steam. I have no idea what's going on with Valiant nowadays, despite the fact they're publishing with Alien books. And I only read the stuff that Valiant has put out from Alien. I don't read the other stuff because I'm not interested. I'm happy Valiant's coming out, but by the way, if you want to know about basically if they're on the Amazon Comixology, is Valiant there? Nope. Is Zenoscope there? Nope, because they're too small of a company now. Despite the fact that Zenoscope was a Comixology for Amazon purchased them, and now you have to go to a different website in order to actually find out if they release new comic books. Yeah, you have to look up a different website for that. Yep. But yeah, that's pretty much a particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. I'm going to show you my next case. This will be next. Okay, thanks for you. Bye.